Welcome back to New Africa Farming. Imagine this, millions of tons of coconut fiber spread across the vast, dry expanse of the Sahel. We are not talking about growing coconuts for food. We are not talking about planting palm trees in the desert. We are talking about vast layers of soft, brown, organic fiber carried into one of the driest regions in Africa and laid deliberately over dead, exposed ground. At first, it sounds completely absurd. Why would anyone spend massive amounts of money and fuel to bring tropical plant waste into a landscape defined by brutal heat, dust, and endless thirst? But what if that fiber could act as a protective skin? What if it could help the Sahel hold moisture longer, cool the scorching soil, slow down evaporation, and protect the ground from losing every drop of water the moment the rain disappears? And what if behind this strange material stood a much bigger visionary question attributed to Captain Ibrahim Traoré? Can the Sahel be covered just enough to stop bleeding its life back into the sky? Today, we dive into another mind-blowing ecological concept, the concept of surface infrastructure. To understand why an idea like this belongs to science and not just fantasy, you first have to understand what the Sahel actually suffers from. From the outside, the world imagines the Sahel as a place of endless drought where rain simply never falls. But that is the absolute biggest misunderstanding. The Sahel does receive rain. It is not evenly distributed and it is not reliable, but it does come. Storms can arrive with terrifying force. The low ground darkens with moisture, and for a brief, beautiful moment, the landscape looks almost alive again. But then, the tragedy repeats itself. Because the ground is completely bare and exposed, the moment the sun comes out, the upper layer of soil heats up like a frying pan. The water vapor vaporizes almost instantly. The soil hardens into a crust, and whatever seeds or microbes started waking up around that moisture are killed before they can even anchor themselves. The Sahel does not fail because water never arrives. It fails because the land cannot protect what arrives once the rain is gone. This is why a soft material like coconut fiber begins to sound less ridiculous. The goal is not to green the desert with coconuts. The goal is to give the soil a skin, a physical barrier between the punishing sun and the fragile ground. Why coconut fiber? Because coconut fiber is not just dry, useless waste. It is a porous, spring-like material built from tough organic strands. It traps air, it acts as an insulator against heat, and it holds on to moisture like a natural shield. In wetter parts of the world, gardeners use it as simple mulch. But in the Sahel, that exact same property stops being gardening. It becomes survival technology. When spread across the surface, coconut fiber interrupts the direct sunlight. It drastically lowers the temperature of the topsoil. Most importantly, it slows the speed at which moisture escapes back into the atmosphere. What this fiber actually provides is not water. It provides delay, a delay in drying, a delay in soil collapse. That delay might only be measured in hours or a few extra days, but in a dry land, a small extension of time decides everything. A seed that survives 2 more days becomes a plant. A root that reaches slightly deeper survives the next hot week. Of course, nobody is going to simply dump coconut waste out of the sky. For this to work, it must be a highly organized system. The fiber must be anchored around planting pits, laid across runoff lines, or strapped down over seed beds. The moment this tropical waste is placed deliberately on the earth, it becomes infrastructure. Not concrete dams, not underground pipes, but surface infrastructure, a distributed network of protection spread across the skin of the land. As the soil stays cooler, roots grow, microbial life thrives, and eventually tough, drought-resistant vegetation emerges. Once those plants grow leaves, they provide their own natural shade, taking over the job of the coconut fiber. The fiber then slowly decomposes, adding valuable carbon back into the soil. But the moment this idea starts looking like a miracle, we hit a massive wall of reality: logistics. At a small scale, coconut fiber is just mulch. At a national scale, it's a staggering supply chain nightmare. To cover the Sahel, you have to source millions of tons of coconut waste, likely from coastal or tropical regions far to the south. You have to process it, compress it, load it on massive truck fleets, and transport it across thousands of kilometers of rough terrain. Coconut fiber is bulky. It takes up immense volume. The cost of transporting it might actually outweigh its biological value if not managed perfectly. This is where the project shifts from ecology to industrial economics. It becomes a true test of whether an African government can treat organic waste as a strategic asset. And if they figure out the logistics, then ecology turns into geopolitics. In a fragile landscape, any ground that holds moisture becomes highly valuable. A protected strip of land attracts farmers. Farmers attract labor. Labor attracts trade. Suddenly, the decision of where to lay down the coconut fiber becomes a decision of power and governance. Who gets the fiber first? Which villages are saved and which are left exposed to the wind? The greatest risk to a project like this is impatience. When people see the fiber working, they will want to expand it instantly. But if you spread the supply chain too thin or lay the fiber in areas with absolutely no water retention structures, the wind will simply blow it away, turning millions of dollars of effort into nothing but decorative trash. Restoring the Sahel requires iron discipline. It requires managing the land layer by layer, season by season. In the end, the idea of covering the desert with tropical coconut waste sounds absurd for a reason. It sounds like the kind of plan people laugh at before they understand what problem it is actually trying to solve. Because this story was never really about coconuts, it's about a much deeper question. What does a dry land need in order to stop losing its life? The region may not be restored by one magic bullet alone, not by pipelines alone, not by giant concrete dams alone, and not by coconut fiber alone. It will be restored by systems that help the water stay, help the soil cool down, and help life organize itself before scarcity tears it apart again. The most important thing spread across the Sahel in this visionary concept would not be coconut fiber, it would be time. Time for moisture, time for roots, time for cover, and time for the land to remember exactly how to hold on. Whether this is deployed as a massive national strategy tomorrow or remains a powerful thought experiment for the future, it highlights the self-reliant innovation Africa needs. What are your thoughts on using surface infrastructure to protect the desert? Could this ultimate protective skin be the ultimate defense against desertification? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you believe in a greener, sovereign Africa, please hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to New Africa Farming. We will keep bringing you the most innovative agricultural stories shaping our continent. Thank you for watching.